A YouTuber by the name of Alex Hitchens emailed me asking a question. He writes, in your opinion, when isolating yourself, which I think may cause anxiety, avoiding one's problems, would this or could this rather lead up to a nervous breakdown? I can tell you I'm going through one now. I show all the signs leading up to one. I haven't had one yet, but I will. Is the only way to stop this just to surrender yourself to it? Or what if I solve the problems? Would my stress and anxiety and worry go away? Alright. Thank you, Alex, for your question. I'll start off by discussing isolation and how it can cause anxiety in a healthy person because human beings are not independent animals by nature. Genetically, humans thrive when we feel as if we're a part of a unit or a tribe, and this tribalism is something that is hardwired into the human being's DNA for survival, just like the pack hierarchy is wired in dogs. It's very rare for a human being to be completely and honestly enjoy being left alone, but you have to be a part of a tribe. You get those negative feelings when you're alone because that's nature's telling you need to go find a tribe, a place of acceptance, because places of acceptance have always been there for survival. Human contact is extremely important, and it's a need for human beings. In fact, it's so important that if you do not physically give contact to a newborn baby, that newborn will die due to the lack of attention. And there was a psychologist by the name of Harry Harlaw, and he conducted an experiment where he would isolate baby monkeys from their groups for extensive periods of times. And the psychological effects that they had on them, it was sick. Like, the young monkeys would go into emotional shock, and this would be exhibited physically. Like, they would clutch themselves, rocking back and forth. They would stop eating, and they would eventually die from the lack of love and acceptance that comes from, like, the lack of love for themselves. Like, because they weren't loved and touched in the very sensitive area of their life that they themselves they neglected themselves. They didn't care to take care of themselves because no one took care of them. No one cared for them. So they didn't know the concept of, like, caring for themselves. And the same phenomenon applies to human beings. Children that are admitted to foster care from chaotic homes usually exhibit the same signs. Like, a neglected infant will ball themselves up on the floor trying to simulate the sensation of being held by, like, pressing their bodies up against the carpet. Like, they just really, like, squeeze into the floor. And that's the saddest thing ever, because they're trying to console themselves because no one's picking up the child. No one shows care to the child, so the child has to do it for himself. And the effects of isolation are undoubtedly a plague on the human condition, and we're naturally programmed to rely on each other for security. When we have no one to rely on, an anxiety will develop because the individual is now at an insecure state, for they are without a tribe. Now, to answer your question, no, it is not my impression that a generalized anxiety is caused by isolation, but rather from not expressing one's emotions. I mentioned in a previous video that emotionally neglected children learn at a young age that it is not okay for them to be themselves, and this causes them to go against their instincts in their existence because it does not line up what other people's expectations are. Usually it's like a parent who has communicated this kind of message to the child by raising them as an extension of the parent rather than an autonomous being. Rather than be themselves, the child develops defense mechanisms such as, like, hyperactive inner monologue coupled with hypervigilance, constantly being on the lookout for what others' opinions are of them and trying to ensure that their behavior fits in with the stencil of what they are supposed to be, living like a false self. Like, many times they'll even, like, get punished for being themselves. Like, a parent will snap at them when they're just being themselves, and they'll just learn to stifle those emotions in the future. They begin to live this mask, and they can never truly be themselves to the point that they no longer can exist within the moment. It feels like all the air has been let out of life's tires. And it's like watching a TV show over and over again all day, every day, and you want to change the channel, but you can't out of fear of reaching for the remote. And constantly having to restrain yourself as to what you're truly feeling, being yourself, and not having an outlet for it, it'll build up and compound until one day you blow. And there needs to be an outlet for that stress. And if one already has trouble communicating everyday feelings, the added stress, maybe from work or from some other, third party, it could put you over the top. I'm guessing in Alex Hitchens' case, in your case, that it's the isolation that you're facing being stuck at home for the past 4 years in the rural area. And mental breakdowns are very much a real thing. And I'm under the impression that they occur in people who already have a high level of anxiety. So to sidestep this, you have to combat that message that was communicated to you so long ago that you aren't good enough, that you're fine as you are. And you have to understand that whoever communicated this message to you had their own issues with how they themselves were perceived and inadvertently projected this onto you. And then you have to come to peace with the fact that they never intended this to happen, really. And since you struggle with isolation and interpersonal relations, you have to face these fears head on. Like, there's no other way around it. You have to you have to be direct with it. And you have to start by getting out of the house. Now, you talk about in your videos how you have trouble, like, looking at your neighbors, making eye contact and stuff. And all these things are things that you need to work on. But you're thinking, to address them, you need to address them incrementally. You need to go baby steps. Start small and slowly build north of that. Be alone around people, even if it makes you uncomfortable, because it'll pass. The more you do it, it'll pass. Like, just go to a library and sit the fuck down. Go to a park, go to like a college, just drive, and just be anywhere where you can be around people. You have to make the effort. You can't just create an excuse and rule yourself out of it. And you mentioned in your videos that your coworkers think you're weird and that's why you're alone there. So, all right, if they already think you're weird, just turn it into a fucking game. Make it a game. All right, try to start a conversation with each person, then try to start one and hold eye contact for 2 seconds. All right, if you can do that, then go for 5, then go for 10, then go for 11. All right, don't just immediately just try to jump into it and think you're gonna hold eye contact and start talking. No, dude, to lift 100 pounds, you have to lift 1. You have to work your way up. No matter how uncomfortable, embrace the discomfort, getting used to that discomfort, and just joke about it to yourself later on. Just be like, all right, it was fucking weird when he looked at me and then thought I did it, and then just walk away. Avoiding it will only keep you in your head. And if you fail and are the type to ruminate over like the social miscues all day after, which I'm guessing you are, and you have to change the way you think of it. Keep track of the behavior and anything you deem weird and pay attention to it so you can minimize it in the future. Just keep like a mental logbook. All right, this didn't work. Let me work on this now. Oh, I did it again. All right, I have to pay attention. If it keeps happening, it's just more reasons to pay attention. It's just more things to pay attention to, and eventually it'll sit in your head. You have to change the way you look at it. All right? Take some time to improve yourself, but make sure that you do it progressively. At the core, this is a confidence problem, and you have to write the wrong message that you heard your entire life, that you're not good enough, and you have to completely remove this inferiority complex by being a badass motherfucker. What's causing your potential nervous breakdown is your inability to be yourself and keeping it all inside all the fucking time. And it's not healthy for it to be ping-ponging inside you like that. And you have to find a place to release it where you feel accepted. It's one of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Number 3 from the bottom up. Anxiety is unexpressed, unfelt, dissociated emotions bubbling over. And when you add stress to the mix, you're a human being. You're not going to be able to take it. You're going to be like that YouTube guy who's just scanning his monitor into the copier. So you got to work on changing that energy you put out by improving your confidence. If you focus on self-improvement, the rest will fall into place. Join a gym, eat right, get a fucking dog. A dog will love you unconditionally, and that feeling of acceptance works wonders. But the goal is to improve yourself. And the more confidence you build, the easier it'll be for you to communicate with others. And you need to find a way to build that confidence.